Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to take the challenge? The challenge. These guys are going to kick your ass. Come on down, baby. Bring it. Are you really ready to take the challenge? I give you the locomotive of hurt, the pile-driving kings of New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, the innocent rocket train. Let the pain begin.
It's a natural fact that I love to attack. See your face making love to the map. And if you don't lie, I'm gonna block your eyes. I like to hurt, and I don't know why. I like to hurt people. I like to hurt people. Break your arms, I mean no harm, but I like to hurt. It's one of my charms. Smash your face till your face is dashed. By the slam, 'cause I'm the man. I like to hurt people. I like to hurt people. Send them home to mama.
For 23 years, you've known him as Chad Austin, Chad Bowman, and sometimes just Chad. He's the drummer of a shitty punk band and the co-host of a third-rate podcast and a four-time Jerry Springer guest. He is Chad Hoover DeMera, and you are in Chad Hoover DeMera's Jobber Jamboree.
Way to go, man. You nailed it this time.
Get better.
Stuck with the same producer, everybody. Mark Jamboree is back again. Welcome to be inside the Jamboree, the Jobber Jamboree. It's where all good jobbers go to listen to bad podcasts. We got a show today. I'm not sure if my guest is going to come through. He's calling from the West Coast, so he's on a different time schedule than we were recording. So he may call in halfway through the show. But there's something that a lot of people always want to talk to me about, how I got into the business or how I got into watching wrestling. I'll cover a lot of that later on. How we got into the tape trading boom and where that went off to, and how it dinosaur itself out. But first, I want to get a couple things out of the way. I want to thank Buzzsprout for the opportunity for us to be presenting you this show for free, no cost at all. Buzzsprout's a great server. Bottom Feeders Radio for allowing us the studio time that we're already paying for. So really, I'm just doing a cheap plug out there. And thanks for all 12 of you guys who have liked the Facebook page. Facebook, like us, is at Chad's Jobber Jamboree. I'm sure I have a Twitter. Just look up Chad Jobber Jamboree somehow. I'm on there. Give me your feedback. I'll take care of all your questions, your answers. I'll answer them all. But now I want to talk about, I'll go back into, before this, Mark Jamboree. We had Survivor Series picks from the last show. From the last show you guys heard, there has been a Survivor Series. And we made picks before the Survivor Series. Yeah. But somehow, in between we getting the new studio remodeled around, we cannot find the paper where we wrote the cheat sheet on of who won each pick. But the only one I do know is I think we lost them all, actually. I think the only thing that I got right was the John Cena team winning. I got John Cena's team winning, but I had him winning for all the wrong reasons. I still won.
What about the girl fight?
The girl fight, I think somebody else won that we didn't even know about.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's the girl fight, so there really wasn't any winners. I mean, the crowd wasn't a winner in that fight. They just threw, 8 girls out there for the sake of putting them on television. But anyway, we'll move on to this. And, when everybody stops me and says, "Hey, Chad, how'd you get into this business? How did you start doing? How do you like this business? How do you find out about this business? How did you even know where to begin?" Well, when I was a kid, my dad took me to wrestling in 77. I went to the Baltimore Arena, and I saw where Billy Graham beat Bruno Sammartino for the title. I was 5, so I don't remember it, per se, but my dad said I was there. So then I saw that. I was already watching it on TV, but I really didn't grab a hold of me yet. I was still watching like Land of the Lost and like them Sid and Marty Krofft goofy psychedelic things,
Land of the Lost was pretty trippy, yeah.
Yeah, right. And all them Sigma the Sea Monster, they were all badass, right? And I would watch it. And one day we were watching the WWE. It was somewhere around 1979, I think it was. In the spring sometime. It was Greg Valentine was having this big, brutal, he was coming back. And he had a feud on television with Chief Jay Strongbow, who at this point was kind of on the end of his run. He still had a few more years left in him, but not as a top guy anymore. Mm-hmm. But he had the recognition, the name value, that they could do something with him, and it would strike. It would move the meter, so to speak.
All right.
So Greg Valentine's a young kid coming in. I think they had a match. They kind of butted heads. Words happened. Then he had a match. Well, Greg Valentine somehow broke Chief Jay Strongbow's leg, right? Just broke it. It was the angle. Put the figure 4 leg lock on referees, trying to make him stop, and he's just like grabbing the rope or, all the cheap ways of making it look like it's harder than what it is,
Yeah.
So they carried Chief Jay out of there, and Chief Jay was always the best because he would always do this kind of quiver. When he's like getting carried out, he's a Native American character. He's always doing this kind of quiver. Even when he would fire back up, he would kind of dance like this.
Almost like the Hogan shake, or
yeah,
whatever.
but it was like his leg would twitch because he was on the cam and everything.
Yeah.
It was great. So I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that so bad. But when I was in elementary school, I got picked to be on this TV show called Heads Up. My school was picked to be on that show, and we all had to kind of audition. That was like first grade or something, whenever like 5 years old is or 7 years old is. And I got picked to do this one. I wasn't talented enough to be in any of the good segments. I was in the one where they had to get everybody in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's got to play an inning. It's like T-ball. Me and some girl were up there, and I don't even remember where our segment was, but it was one of them cool-ass green screen segments where, me and her are standing in front of this like big blue screen, and they're like superimposing stuff behind us, And I don't remember what the comment was. I just do know that I popped the crowd huge. The crowd went banana for whatever I said. It just came out of my mouth. It was just like, oh my God. They started like laughing. So I had to be on that show. There was no such thing as a VCR then. Cable wasn't nowhere near where I was from. So I don't know how, my mom may have had it. We had an old cassette recorder, a classic cassette tape recorder. Well, I didn't want to miss this episode of TV. I set the TV recorder, the tape recorder next to the television and let it tape while I went and did a TV show. When I came back, I rewound the tape. I could.
And you listen to what happened.
Because the commentators painted that picture.
They're calling it the whole time. Yeah.
And here I am not even understanding what I'm getting into. Like, wow, this is unbelievable. I can take this out in the yard. I can listen to it again. I can go out and, I can on the bus. I can listen to it again. Then I started taping audio tapes. And again, I never, ever, ever copied over any of the tapes because I always figured, well, I can always go back and listen to them again, So I started mounting up this army of cassette tapes, and one day, cable I think had just came around to Pasadena. It was probably sometime in the early 80s, 82 I want to say maybe. Well, we had Home Team Sports. Home Team Sports at the time would show Orioles games, local stuff, but they somehow imported Florida championship wrestling from Florida was showing on my television.
Wow.
I don't know how we got it, but somehow my family got a hold of a VCR. Top dollar. For my family had anything
like
top
the kind
dollar.
that opened up from the top.
Top loader. It was a top loader. I remember it was $489.
Oh my God.
In like 1982, right? And it had a remote control, but it had a cord on the remote control, right?
Yeah.
It was Fisher brand. It was industrial strength. It was heavy as all hell, right? It was a machine. Especially it wasn't like the one. Yeah, it was. You hit the button for the top loader. It goes.
It was made of steel.
It was made of steel. I see my dad and my grandfather. There's one guy on each end of this box carrying his thing into the house. I'm like, what the hell? We get a pool table? And my dad goes, look at this. It's a VCR. We can record what's on TV. I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about, right? So my mom goes to the store, this is my grandma. She comes home with a videotape. We're just recording stuff for the sake of recording stuff. I was like, wait a minute. Saturday mornings, I can record wrestling as I'm setting up my audio tape, and I'm like, wait a minute, fuck this. Hey, Dad, fuck that whatever football game that you got from the Colts on there. Yeah. I'm taking that off of there and I'm putting Saturday morning wrestling on there. And I learned about the different speeds of the tape. Well, why would I want to dub it in 2-hour format where I can put 6 shows on a tape at 6-hour speed? So I did that, started doing that. I had my wrestling, which was WWE or a WWF at the time. A championship wrestling from Florida was starting to come on my TV. And here I am just breaking around the 10, 11, 12, 13, almost 13-year-old range. And my mom's just coming home with these blank tapes all the time. I mean, they were the worst brands ever. I mean, I can remember, I still have some of the cases today. I still use them. The original case they put them in. Yeah. I know I have one called Gemini. And I think it's a Gemini brand, right? And I think
the hard plastic?
No. It's a shitty cardboard, but it stood the test of time. I mean, like 35 years, shit. And I remember, I think I wrote on there, Frank Williams, one of my favorite jobbers on TV, and I wrote August of like '83 or something like that on the tape. And every once in a while, I still come across when I'm moving tapes. Damn, this is still around, man. This is badass. That it's still around. So I started taping all these shows. Then bam, you get the Superstation. You get WTBS, right? Mm-hmm. Which was like at 6:05. At 6 o'clock, 6:05 every Saturday night, most of America was sitting in front of TBS waiting for championship wrestling, world championship wrestling. Best show ever. Started recording them, right? So then I'm like, wow, this is cool.
So Turner Broadcasting was like the groundbreaker.
Turner Broadcasting is what gave Vince idea, the sparked Vince's idea for him to go national. Because Ted Turner had the vehicle, had the outlet for Vince to, he's like it's kind of like this deal. Damn it, he stole my idea, you know?
Yeah.
After the guy's already got cable, you know? He just did it first, okay? You know, whatever. But that was Vince's deal, whatever. So Vince was always jealous, but man, he had to hate how much money Ted Turner was making at 6:05. It was original programming. It's cheap to produce because it was in a TV studio. Maybe 100 people. Maybe.
Wow.
3 or 4 rows on 3 sides of the ring because he had the commentators over here.
You put all the cameras and the commentators on the same side.
There's no room in that place. So it's a cheap thing. So I started taping these things, and bam, I started getting a little bit older, and I started going to these wrestling shows at the Baltimore Arena, and I started meeting people because I thought I was the only one crazy enough to like keep this junk, like almost like I'm a hoarder before the phobia even existed, and I'm like, damn, what do you got? Well, he's like 5 years, I forgot the guy's name. But he's like 5 years older than me, and he told me because he had taped them before I started taping them. So I'm like, you got what? You got the what angle? What's that called? What's an angle? He goes, well, you remember when? He already knew. He already was in the know, and I was this kid that was just like, what the fuck's an angle? You know, what are you talking about, the fucking job or whatever? So we traded it a couple times. I'd meet him at the arena. I'd bring him a couple tapes, and he'd give me a couple tapes. But he already had probably whatever I had. So meeting him, I met a couple other guys. Same thing, just kind of like networked. Bam, bam, bam. Find somebody that takes it as serious as you do and is willing to help you out and give him somebody to know. Never really happened. Guess who really introduced me to the world of like tape trading?
Who?
Evan Bart.
Really?
Of all the people in the world that
I didn't even know Evan collected.
No, he didn't.
Oh.
He just happened to live next door to Davey D and across the street from Gary Cronin. So here, you know, I'm like, he's like, yeah, my neighbor. He's at my house, and I'm going through these tapes, and Evan's like, my neighbor, you know, he collects all that shit, junk, whatever. I'm like, nah, nobody does, man. Nobody watches this shit. And he's like, yeah, I'll let you meet him. I went and met him. I looked at his collection. He had shit that I never even heard of. Like, there was no chance I was getting, like, Japanese television or Mexican wrestling.
Yeah.
Or Portland. I never even heard of him. And I'm like, oh, my God, you're my new best friend right now, you know? And that was great, me and Dave's story, because I was DJing.
Was that the first time you saw Japanese wrestling?
Besides what they would show you on television, which would be the clips.
That?
Yeah, it wouldn't be, like, whole hours and stuff like that. But I had just met Dave. Dave was a little fat, chubby kid dude that had his greatest wrestling collection. And I was DJing, because I'm like 8 years older than him or something, I think. It's weird. And he liked hip-hop music. So we decided that, like, we were going to I'll trade you all my fucking DJ shit for all your fucking wrestling tapes. So here I am. I'm this kid. I got this nice collection that I'm really working on. And then here comes Davey D, who dumps like another 200 tapes on me.
Wow.
So now I got like 400 tapes or 350 tapes or whatever. Then I go across the street. I meet Gus, Gary Cronin. He's got all this crazier shit like than Dave's got, because Dave doesn't even know about some of the stuff that Gus has got. And then there was like, you know, crazy like special Japanese shows, or even harder to find 70s stuff. Or like when you start seeing it in film, you're like, holy fuck, what the fuck is how old is this shit? But then they have cameras. Then we meet Gus, and somehow I made some deal with Gus where I traded him for a bunch of shit. And then at this point we were rolling, like we were like a clique now. We were like, all right, now we got to get out there. Then we started reading the Wrestling Observer, right? The Observer comes out. That's where all these words like angle, babyface, heel, dusty finish.
Plus, they may be writing or referencing shows that you either aren't aware of or
Well, what
No, and then you can go back and find them.
and we catch it, and we used to catch it ahead of time because that was the deal. The Observer came out and it revealed everything before it happened.
Nice.
I guess I want to say me and Dave probably started reading the Observer around the same time, like late 80s. And then we're like reading it like chair shot, and we're like, so-and-so beat so-and-so in Milwaukee. I'm like, what? What? They were in Milwaukee? The same match? They were in Milwaukee even Wednesday? They were in some other state? The same match was 5 days in a row? Same finish? Like, there used to be a rib.
Oh, that's how they knew. So they didn't have inside information. They were following the tour.
Well, they had somebody cover their stuff,
Yeah,
so there was
yeah.
somebody there. But the inside rib was when we were kids, well, not kids, like teenagers, they would have a show at the Capitol Center, a matinee show, right? Not a big time show. They're getting 2 paydays because they're doing one at the arena that night. So it's 2 paydays. So they had a match, usually a 6-man, and Andre would be in it. They got this great spot where, I think it's like Fuji's in the ring and Andre's kind of like doing like a sunset flip, kind of trying to pull him down. Fuji's trying to run, and Andre pulls Fuji's trunks down, right? Well, we had tickets to both shows, the matinee show and the night show. So we're all laughing. Andre pulled down Fuji's pants, right? That's so funny. We go to the show at the Baltimore Arena, same 6-man, same spot. And I was like, dude, how dumb is Mr. Fuji? There's no chance you're falling for that same spot twice in the same day, And that's kind of like when our eyes kind of like, wait a minute here. So we're reading.
There is no Santa Claus.
Yeah, dude, we're reading this shit. We're reading this stuff in these magazines, and we're watching this good wrestling. But then Dave Meltzer at the time, because he was still coming up, he used to put this section in the back of his thing called the reader's ads, where people like correspond with other people because there wasn't internet. Christ, we had pen pals when I was a kid. Pen pals, literally writing letters and mailing them to them.
Oh my god!
And then you were like, you're reading all these cards. I mean, it's a big list of guys. I mean, nowadays I look back at it and was like, gee, that's a who's who in this business, right? And I'm looking, and there's a guy one guy says he has a list. You have to send $13 to get his list sent to you. And normally everybody would just print up a list and put it in an envelope and mail it, how many tapes you got.
$13.
Yeah, $13 because this guy had to get it printed by a professional printing company.
Oh, that's how much shit he had?
It was 2 phone books thick of how much tapes he had. I found this motherfucker in New York. His name is Steve Freelander. And he had it was $13 to get a copy of his list. And the other thing that made it so amazing is his font was so tiny. And he could fit so much shit on one page. And he still had 2 phone books full of tapes. Wow. Unbelievable. You met this guy. But once I think I may have bought a tape from him at one time. Somebody had a list.
But you just had to have the book.
Yeah,
right?
well, I didn't buy it.
No.
I think somebody got it, and it just kind of got passed around. So, I was probably missing pages. Who knows? But I'm like, I noticed everything that I wanted, that I was looking for, usually next to it said not good quality, bad quality. And I had gotten some tapes from somebody who had gotten tapes from Steve Freelander, not great quality.
Wow.
So back in them days, VHS. Every time you would dub it again, you lose. It was called a generational.
Yeah.
So you got this guy who's got a tape from '77 who dated for a guy in Jersey.
You can't even make out their faces anymore.
Eventually, he got tracking lines in it.
Yeah.
It's just fucking brutal. So I kind of gave up on Freelander because I didn't even have bad eyes yet. I needed a magnifying glass to read this dude's list. Then I met up with other guys like. There was Jeff Lynch. Oh my God, this is way before Feinstein. Then there was this cat that Jeff Jones had told me I had to hook up with from ECW. He was also in our loop of tape tradings in like the late 80s, 90s, early stuff. Then we hooked up with who's now one of my best friends, the Bird Watcher, Scott Houston. We met up with this guy. He comes to tell me that he has everything. I said, what do you mean you have everything? He goes, I have everything. So, explain to me what everything is. Well, I buy complete years of certain,
Holy crap.
He has a guy that will tape him every single show of a year in Mexico, send him a whole year. And he'll buy a whole year of Japan, all Japan, New Japan. He'll buy a whole year of WWF.
Now this has to be after the internet, right? Like,
no, it's way before the internet.
So he just met a guy through pen pals.
Yeah, same thing off the Meltzer sheets.
Holy cow!
But I didn't know the Burr Watcher had been taping them for years and years and years, and nobody did. He has like this storage thing I hear out in like Carroll County. Because I heard his family is like one of them heart-to-heart families. They had cell phones in the late 70s. When people, they go pull up to the R. Scott Houston mansion. That has one of them half-circle driveways. And don't worry, leave your keys in it. We'll have it parked. And he's telling me, but he'll never let anybody go over to his house and see his collection. He let me borrow a tape one time, one fucking time, and you won't believe what happened to it.
Oh no! Something happened.
Something happened to it.
So you ruined it for everyone else.
Well,
you were probably the test.
No, I don't think I was. I think it was already in place. But
okay.
I was living with him for a while. I think it was, and we both went home to see our parents. And I went over to his house, and he showed me like a little glimmer. He like moved like a mantle thing, and this wall opened up. I was
A
like,
bookcase turns around.
Yeah. And I was like, "Fuck, Southeastern '82. What the fuck?" Right? And he's like, "No, don't touch that. You can't touch that." And I'm like, "Come on, Scott, let me. Bob Armstrong, the Fullers. Oh my God, right?" And he's like, "No." I go, "Scott, come on, man, please. I beg for this stuff." "Nah, man, I can't. I don't let anybody borrow my stuff. It's gonna be all out of line. It's all in an order and this and that." And I somehow talk him into letting me borrow it, right? I'm like, it's got great quality. It's brutal, right? I take it home. I start dubbing it. And I dubbed it okay, right? But
It ate it.
No, not even that. I didn't even dub it yet. My buddy in Louise, Alabama, my buddy Travis, I hadn't met him. He's coming into this play now where he's starting to have Southeastern, where that's what I wanted. But he didn't have this Southeastern. So I'm like, Travis, you give me this Southeastern, I'll give you that Southeastern.
You traded his tape?
But he told me he would dub it and send it back to me, right? And he dubbed it, and his machine ate the fucking tape.
Oh!
And I had to tell Scott, and he's like, "See, that's it. Nope, right?"
Yeah,
like, Scott,
that is it.
We can get it back for you. He goes, "It'll never be in that quality. It's already ruined. This and that." I'm like, "Oh, now nobody can ever borrow his shit." And Travis, at this time, was like, now we were our own territories. I covered the Maryland area. Travis was doing the Alabama, Louisiana territories. I had a guy I was trading with, Jeff Osborne, out of Evansville, Indiana, who was sending me USWA shows every month, and I was sending. Oh my God, it was almost like a job. We had to get our list printed. Me and Travis decided to get together and like start like a little, $10. $10, you get your tape in 2 days. Whatever. So we had to get our list printed. And we're like, that started to get costly here, And tape trading was tape trading.
Yeah.
But now we're like, we got so many tapes going out, and what are we trading for? What are we getting back in any of this? Because we are
$10.
Well, that's because we already had everything else.
Yeah.
We're running out of stuff that's valuable anymore.
Yeah.
When you got the Steve Freelanders and all these other turkeys taking over, and so then through Burr Watcher and Travis, Burr Watcher was kind of like our everywhere man. I mean, he would set you up with the guy and say, "I'm looking for a guy in Portland." And you go, "Well, here's who I use." Or he'll go, "This is Jeff Lynch. This is his contact information." Still before internet, get a hold of him. All right, how much is it going to cost me to get a tape every month? We got all this stuff going on, and then all of a sudden, we start making some swell. We made a little ripple in the tape trading world, right? Where we started getting letters from the infamous Mick Divitt, the infamous lawyer from the WWE.
Oh.
Yeah, saying, "You do know it's illegal. You cannot sell this stuff, right?"
Yeah. Are you out of here?
But see, I think at the time, I don't know. We didn't really have a leader. Everybody kind of spoke for themselves. And my opinion was, well, I own the tape.
Yeah.
I own the tape. So what's on the tape doesn't matter. You're buying a fucking tape from me. Oh, fuck. If it happens to have WrestleMania on it, fucking by God, Oh, shit.
Sue me.
I'm selling you the tape, a VCR tape. If you're dumb enough to pay $10 for a supposed blank VHS tape, then you're a fool, right? So, and everybody's like, I don't think it's going to work, right? You're going against the
Yeah, because it's illegal to sell VHS tapes as well.
So that was a big disaster. And then we had this fucking, we were getting friends with like, Feinstein Rob Feinstein from RF Video. He's a longtime friend, longtime nemesis. We're like me and Evan, and he's starting to go around and getting these rights to all these territories. Like, whatever Vince didn't already own, at this time, Vince is starting to own everything. You know, libraries.
So what's that mean when you get? That means only your shows can be there.
Yeah, he'll go to Jerry Lawler and say, "Look, Jerry, I want to distribute USWA television through my company." You know, so he'll get rights. So he's like, if I got caught selling USWA stuff, I'd get a letter from RF Video because only he could. So
he owns the area.
So now you see where our piece or our pie is just shrinking to what the fuck we can even, what can we even do anymore, right?
Yeah.
Everybody pretty much has everything. Then it became like independence. Nobody fucking owns that, right? You're just taping a show and then all of a sudden became, well, you can't tape tonight because Rob's RF Videos bought a table and they got the rights to the show tonight. I'm like, fuck, right? So then, at this time, I'm one of the top 100 guys in the country with one of the best collections of wrestling. I mean, I have a great collection, and I've been doing it for 40 years, basically. Right. So all of a sudden, I'm lugging around every time I move. These 4, 5, 6,000 VHS tapes. It's a truck on its own moving these motherfuckers, and it took me 10 trips to move the Dundalk just in VHS tapes of tubs back and forth. I think I counted. I think it was 10, and then all of a sudden, fucking here comes the internet. And
I know. How weird is that? Because now, I want to see this match. And it just comes right up, and you go, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, what the fuck? I'm still lugging around. So here I am thinking, well, we'll see where this goes, right? All of a sudden, it got pretty bad. Nobody was trading tapes anymore. Then they were trading torrents. Like, why fucking VHS? So I still had these thousands of tapes that I had to burn off of, they were still good tapes. That, I may have had maybe the whole show. Maybe you go on YouTube, it only had a clip. I still had valuable stuff, but I now had to get it off of fucking VHS onto this new format coming out called DVD. Fuck. And I gotta take all these and put them on these things? You know what I mean? And I've been doing it for, I think it'll be almost, when's 2001 is when I think I got my first burner. And I'm still not done. 14 years later. I still have about 3,000 tapes out in my garage that have to be transferred on the DVD. And everybody's like, well, you got the internet. You can find whatever you want. But it's a lot differently because I taped it off my television. And now with the network, the WWE network, which also killed, the last remaining thing that was worth anything was ECW. And now you can just go in there and put up any ECW show that was ever happening. They killed all that. But the WWE doesn't own rights to a lot of things. There's a lot of music they won't spend the money for the rights to. So they will redub their generic music over whatever ECW music. These used to pride themselves on having the best soundtrack of wrestling.
Yeah.
During the Public Enemies or during the Gangsters match, they would play Natural Born Killers until the match ended. If the match went 20 minutes, you heard the song in a loop. Natural Born Killers, And now when you watch them on the network and they come out, they got some like clown gangster rap music in the background that WWE made, and it's like what the fuck? You got these guys that are like stapling dollars on these dudes' heads and stuff like that, and the music is just like, what?
Yeah.
Because the intro of the show used to be 9 Inch Nails, Closer, with the boom, tsh,
yeah,
and then it went right into the Thunder Kiss. White Zombie, that was the opening of ECW,
badass.
right? And now it's some fucking crazy, stupid thing. So I'm telling, there was a guy the other day asking me about his tapes, and I said, look, don't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because if you have them taped the way you taped them, then you can always go back. If there was a nipple slip at a Raw, which there's been several.
So that's what I was going to ask about. Have they actually edited content? Like for time reasons or whatever.
All kinds. Every reason.
Well, then it's definitely worth keeping the originals.
Yeah, even though it's
you might miss an entire,
There is, when in Canada, when Raw was on Canada, I believe it was, in Canada, I think you get it off a satellite feed. Yeah. So it's kind of like you're watching it as they're taping it. Like with the whole camera numbers at the bottom. And they go to break, they're still taping kind of thing. Sable, I think, had a nipple slip or something on which... quote unquote had a nipple slip. She was barely wearing anything to begin with. All right, I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody saw it because she was too much to look at. But that tape blew up. That was the best. I mean, we were like, I got it. I got it. I got this, whatever name, nipple slip. And was like, you got it? I'm like, yeah, I got it. And they're like, no shit. The Cactus Jack losing his ear. Now, the chances of that ever being
aired.
No. It was taped in Germany at a house show in 19.
He legitimately lost his ears.
Oh yeah, it's classic.
I see those.
It's classic. It's in Germany. WCW's wrestling Vader. You're listening. This is 1993. They're at a house show.
Yeah.
Right. There's no WCW cameras there. This is shot from a local who snuck a camcorder into the building, and one guy did it. There's not 3 versions of this match.
It's not actually.
It's not taped. It's not.
It was never meant to be aired.
No, it was a house show. Oh. And you see the referee walk over and go, pick it up. He gets his head. He gets thrown into the ropes, and he does this deal where he gets his head tangled up into the ropes. Yeah. Well, Leon, I think, was pounding on him, and he was trying to slide underneath the ropes, out of the ropes, and the ropes were so tight that when he opened it up, his head came down and his ear went off. He lost one ear and part of the other ear. And he finished the match.
No.
Fucking ain't right, he did.
No.
You'll see the ref walk over and pick the ear up, hand it to somebody, and then he still finishes the match. He's a bloody mess, but he finishes the match.
That's the most insane thing ever.
But that's the kind of stuff that held us together as tape traders. It had to be stuff like that. We had to sneak in. We had to sneak into these USWA shows in Memphis with a camcorder in our pocket. That was our only other. We were like, dude, we were put out of this business. This is like Vince killed us. Vince killed the tape business with all this digital nonsense, hubbubaloo, all this nonsense. But that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I have about 4,000 to 5,000 DVDs right now, which the amount of space that it takes up is just nowhere near what I was dealing with before. Yeah. And I got some binders of my personal favorite stuff, and I got stuff I'm still dubbing. But pretty much, I think everybody now is in the digital age. But the times that we had, man, as kids, maybe kind of before all the drinking and partying, just when you were kids and you found something you loved, and it was hard finding somebody else that had the same kind of even idea. Our deal wasn't sport. We weren't playing sports. We were talking about watching it. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, this is great stuff. That was stuff. And it was very few people that you could find that would even understand why are you saving that stuff?
Yeah. You
could read about the magazines and this and that. The magazines were works anyway. But anyway, it was very, very fun going down that little journey down today.
Trip down memory lane.
Yeah, man. See, now everybody wants to know. And then from there, how else did I get into the business? You don't think I started meeting people when I'm trading all these tapes, And
yeah.
wrestlers want copies of their matches, and then you're like, hey, man, well, teach me how to do an arm drag, whatever. That's how it worked, man. That's how you can get into the business. Just recording everything is basically studying everything. You're recording it to watch it. You can't help but pick something out of it, right? I mean, but if you're watching it, if you just have it on in the background, no. But if you're watching it, you're like, that's pretty cool. And if you're a wrestler now, who do you know? You don't know anybody really, but I mean, I've told you stories of I've had wrestlers, legitimate pro wrestlers, call me, look, big name ones, WWE guys, and ask me, hey, can you make me a best of this guy? Can you make me a best of this guy? Because I'm going to work here, and I got this new idea I want to do, and I want to pattern after this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And them guys I wouldn't charge for it. I'm like, this is cool because if they ever get famous, I might get a mention.
Yeah.
That this is how I got it done. Chad's Video Vault of the day, I think was the website that it was. And it was still to this day I don't have a website for all my tapes. It's brutal. But yeah, it was a fun day today, and I like to thank my producer Mark Jamboree, who doesn't even know anything about wrestling. He's just sitting there staring at me, looking at babysitter porn. And I want to thank the people at Buzzsprout again, and the people at Bottom Feeders for making this possible for us. And until next time, maybe next time, I'll see you in the Jamboree.